On a quiet stretch of golden beach where the waves whispered secrets to the shore, a little girl named Lila knelt in the sand, her fingers sculpting turrets, bridges, and towers. All around her, other children ran, built castles, and watched them fall with laughter as the tide rolled in. But Lila worked alone, with a steady hand and a soft hum, shaping her sandcastle as if it were made of dreams instead of grains. Her castle wasn't the biggest or the tallest. It didn't have seashell flags or a moat filled with tidewater, but it had something else, something quiet and invisible. It had her heart. Lila pressed her hands gently against the castle's walls, then leaned close and whispered, "Please don't crumble, just hold on, just stay." She wasn't sure why she said it, only that the words felt important, like a secret spell spoken through the breeze. The sea was rising, it always did. All sandcastles faded beneath its reach. But as Lila stood and brushed the sand from her knees, her eyes lingered on her little castle. "Stay," she whispered again, her voice barely a thread. The tide rolled closer, licking the edges of other castles, melting towers and swallowing gates. One by one, they fell into the sea like sleepy dreams. Parents called to their children. The beach slowly emptied. The sun dipped toward the horizon. But Lila's sandcastle still stood. Wind brushed over it. Foam kissed its corners. But it did not fall. Night came. The beach darkened, quiet and empty. A seagull cried in the distance, and the moon began to rise like a pearl dropped into the sky. And then, when no eyes were watching, the sandcastle breathed. A shimmer passed over it, faint like moonlight caught in a wish. And in that shimmer, something woke. The castle was small, but inside it now stirred something ancient and gentle. A voice, soft as wind through grass, whispered back across the waves. "I heard your wish, little one. I'll hold your dream." Time passed. Days came and went. Children returned, laughing and digging, chasing seagulls and building new castles. But no matter how many tides rose and fell, Lila's castle never crumbled. People began to notice. "It's just a coincidence," said one man, snapping a photo. "Maybe someone rebuilds it every day," guessed another. But every morning, there it was, untouched. Not a turret missing, not a single wall collapsed. Lila came back each week, walking quietly down the beach, her sandals filled with sand. She'd sit beside her castle, tracing lines in the dunes, whispering new dreams to it like secrets in a bottle. "I miss Grandpa," she told it one day. "He used to sit right here under the umbrella. He said the sea carried stories. Do you think he hears me?" The castle said nothing, but a warm breeze wrapped around her shoulders like a hug, and the waves seemed to hush. Another day, she whispered, "I'm scared we'll have to move. Mama's been crying at night." The castle stood strong, even as the tide swept close again. It never budged, as if holding her hopes in every grain of sand. The town grew curious. People came from far away to see the sandcastle that refused to fall. Tourists took pictures. Scientists scratched their heads. Some people even tried to copy it, hoping to capture its magic, but their castles still melted into the surf. Only Lila's remained. But Lila never bragged. She didn't need to. She knew the truth. It wasn't the shape of the castle or the skill in her hands. It was the wish. The hope she had folded into it like a paper boat. The longing she had left behind. And the castle, somehow, had listened. Then one summer afternoon, dark clouds gathered like folded wings above the sea. The wind screamed. The tide churned higher than ever before, tearing at the sand with wild fists. People rushed to gather their towels and umbrellas, shouting over the rising storm. Lila stood still. The storm was loud, the ocean angry. But she could see it, even through the rain. The little castle, half covered now in foam, standing tall. She ran, barefoot across the beach, soaked to the bone, until she was beside it. "I'm here," she cried, dropping to her knees. "You don't have to hold on alone." The storm raged, and the castle glowed. Just for a moment, just one heartbeat. A silver shimmer pulsed through it like a memory catching fire. The storm paused, as if the sea, too, remembered the wish. Then the tide rushed in, and the castle was gone. Gone. Lila sat in the wet sand, her face streaked with salt and tears. Her dream had fallen, her wish had washed away. But then something brushed her foot. She looked down. A tiny shell, perfect, smooth, glowing faintly, rested beside her. She picked it up and held it in her palm. Inside, carved so delicately it could only be magic, were the words, "I kept your dream, now you carry it." Lila smiled through her tears. She didn't rebuild the castle. She didn't need to, because now the dream was inside her. And as she walked back up the beach, the sun broke through the clouds and lit the world gold again.